Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Ooh, I'm going to take my time with this one. What you're looking at is a legend. The Olympus of early 1990s watch collecting, the most expensive and most complicated wristwatch of its time, launched in 1994. This is the Gerald Genta Grande Sonnerie. It is a watch that across all of its variants was made in perhaps 2 to 3 dozen copies through the 90s. But as you see it here, reference G0027.7 was made in 3 pieces. One, rose gold with full bracelet, is what you see here. There was also a white gold example and a platinum example with over 800 parts in its movement. Nothing else was a rival. Even the Patek Philippe 5016, a retrograde perpetual calendar tourbillon minute repeater, only had just over 500 pieces in its movement. This one, with over 800, literally set the mark. Remember, at the time, the most complicated Patek watches were pocket watch. So this gives you automatic winding. It gives you a time telling or time function power reserve indicator. It gives you a strike power reserve indicator. Grand et petite sonnerie, your choice, with a Westminster carillon, so 4 different strikers and 4 different tones for each of the quarters. The whole thing is automatic winding as well, with a gorgeous case-back tourbillon and a movement that is elaborately hand-engraved and hand-finished down to the minutest detail. Now, normally I cover up serial numbers on watches like this, but what's the point? When this watch has been previously auctioned and documented all over the internet as a piece unique with serials visible, I have nothing to hide. This watch is already an online celebrity. So, one piece made in rose gold, which makes it feel a little bit more contemporary to modern tastes. What doesn't seem contemporary is just how compact it is for all of the features it has. This is a 39 millimeter diameter case that I measure at 14.1 millimeters thick, and it is 47.5 millimeters from lug to lug across the wrist. Most recently, this watch was auctioned at Phillips Geneva Watch 9 back in May of 2019. Now, the timepiece back in its day would have cost $900,000, which is about $1.5 million in today's money. So take note, this is the equal of the APRP RM, the Grubel 4C quadruple tourbillon, that kind of a watch. The Patek Philippe 6300. This is a watch that is in that grade, and at $900,000 in the early 90s, you get a sense of how special this watch is, but also what a relatively good buy it is today, as this timepiece, as we're offering it, is far less than even a green dial steel Nautilus. Taking a look at it on my wrist, this is one of the most spectacular watches I've ever had the pleasure and the privilege of wearing. It's just not all that big. Now, it is thick, maybe not for what's inside, but objectively it's fairly chunky. Where it really redeems itself is in just how narrow it is across the wrist, as the lugs are welded on, and as you can see, the case itself wears basically 39 by 39. So a lady can absolutely wear this. You can see the lovely double rouleau bracelet that's attached. This is a watch that you can absolutely wear underneath a jacket cuff, if not the tightest of dress sleeves. Take another quick cuff look. The bracelet, despite its age, and despite the construction conventions of the early 90s, feels remarkably solid. It really feels like a bracelet built in the modern era. You could see it has a combination of small links and large, each one in a rod style or pill style format. The hinges are actually in between the links, and you can see that well there. Taking a quick look at the profile, you can see it's sized conventionally using removable links fixed by screws. It has a double deployant clasp that is friction fit. You can see it is in outstanding condition. Marks of age, all of the original customization, signs of wear and tear and age are still present on the watch. It has not been refinished, nor will it be. You can see that the bracelet is held to the case using screws and bars, which is exactly what you want to see in a watch this expensive and, in spite of its size, fairly heavy. The lugs are attached to the case in traditional fashion, inserted into slots and then welded on. You can see that the octo case was a thing at Gerald Genta long before Bulgari arrived. This is not the octo finissimo, but it helps to establish the company's long-running policy of using 8-sided cases. This one remarkably tiered, a little bit like perhaps a bee's nest, you might say. It is a dramatically tiered thing, with each tier in a sort of rolled dome-like gadroon profile. It has an air of Art Deco about it, in spite of being quite ornate. Really a watch made in the 90s, but its style is of the 80s. And Gerald Genta was the haute de gamme manufacturer of reference during that period. There were 2 separate manufacturers, one in Les Brassus, which continues to operate today, making Bulgari watches. Those are the high horology Bulgari Octo Finissimo, Tourbillon, minute repeater, ultra thin pieces. But then at this time, Gerald Genta also had a manufacturer in Geneva, and that is why this Gerald Genta branded watch, it's a little bit difficult to see on the case back, but it's present. Let me open up the bracelet. You will note that this is a Geneva hallmark movement. There it is, right underneath my finger. See the hallmark 750, or at least the notation 750 and the GG logo? Move inboard and you can see the Geneva hallmark has been engraved into the bridge adjacent to the tourbillon structure. So this is also Poisson de Genève. Now on the dial side, there's a lot going on. We have lovely rose gold numerals in a handsome breguet style. We have several different displays. We have the power reserve for the Sonnerie system, and the minute repeater also runs off this power reserve, so there's no charging slider to pull halfway and break the watch. That said, this is a traditional minute repeater in Grande Sonnerie, traditionally constructed, so there are some rules to abide by, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So here's how much striking power you have left. The watch is automatic winding, but when you turn the crown in a clockwise direction, you wind the strike barrel. When you turn in a counterclockwise direction, you wind the 48-hour power reserve for the time-telling functions. The watch has a 48-hour power reserve if it's just running. If the petite sonnerie is operating, it's a 28-hour power reserve, and with the grand running, it is a 28 with the petite, 24 with the grand. So you do want to wind it daily if you're running it in full strike mode. A couple of notes about how you use this watch. As you can see, there are little crowns on the opposite side. They have a beaded profile. This one will sort out the use of the grand or petite sonnerie. This one right here allows you to silence the system or activate the sonnerie. So this is the sonnerie mode. This is the sonnerie on off. Again, this is the time telling power reserve. This is the striking power reserve. We have small seconds. The dial is a combination of a mother of pearl base with 4 brilliant cut gems. And then if you look carefully, this was loomed back in its day, so it has authentic tritium patina. We have this little system for setting the chimes or silence, and then we have a trigger that operates the striking system. Now, conventionally, if you leave it in Grande Sonnerie mode, it will chime the hour, and then each time it passes a quarter, it will chime the hours and the quarters. In petite mode, it will chime the quarters without the hours. That's the difference. Now, what makes this a Westminster carillon is that it actually features, if you look carefully on the back, it's not the easiest thing to demonstrate a watch on a bracelet, but if you look on the reverse side, you can see this watch has a few extra strikers. All told, there are 4 different strikers, and so each quarter is composed of 2 double chimes. Normally, on a striking system, quarters are represented by 1 double chime. Here, each quarter is represented by 2 double chimes, so 4 chimes total thanks to the 4 strikers. If you look very careful next to the black polished and beveled strikers, you can see the governor just underneath. Now, the watch is very traditional. Today, watchmakers have come up with all sorts of clever tricks to prevent you from breaking their chiming watches. Not this one. It does have one thoughtful refinement, which is the use of a push button and then a chiming system driven off a barrel, so it's not possible to pull the slide halfway and break it, as with many vintage repeater-style watches. But you want to make sure that you do not set the chime while the crown out is being used for setting, and you do not want to attempt to set it while the chime is in progress. You will be able to hear the governor if you put it right to your ear. Remember, if you were to chime something like 1, let's say 1 p.m., and you chime 1 p.m., like you demand that it chimes, it will still go through the whole routine of skipping the quarters and skipping the minutes after the quarter. So although you only hear the 1 chime, the repeater system will continue to run for quite a few seconds before the governor actually stops. So when you activate the repeater system, give it a full 20 to 30 seconds before you set it again or chime it again. Now, on the reverse side, lots to love. This is caliber 31,000, and it has over 800 parts. There was also a perpetual calendar version of this watch that had over 1,000, but that watch is a little bit unwieldy and difficult to wear. Now, you can see lovely floral styles throughout here. We have a set of flower petals at the center. The rotor has been fully skeletonized and engraved. We have grape leaves. We have Grande Sonnerie engraved into the edge of the rotor. We have the Gerald Genta logo entirely black polished. You'll find no shortage of sharp interior angles where bevels meet. This watch was state-of-the-art in terms of finish back in the early 90s because at a time when many haute de gamme brands still put solid casebacks on their watch and others such as Patek cut some corners, Gerald Genta exhaustively finished these movements with a style that still seems modern because of the level of attention to detail, and sharp outward angles and inward angles are a testament to that. Look at the tourbillon, which you'll note is a flying tourbillon. It's not flying tourbillon, but it is a 1-minute tourbillon with an upper bridge. We'll try to show you this real carefully. It has an upper bridge that is 2 Gs, so G and G. That's, of course, the name of the founder. Each one of these was signed number 1 because they were all customized. Each one was effectively a piece unique, but make no mistake, there were 3 constructed like this, albeit one in white gold, this one in rose, and then another one platinum. You can see that the entire bridge, as well as the cage for the tourbillon, black polished. The bridge has been black polished on its top, and then you can see sharp interior angles as well as outward points. This watch, it decided to chime the quarters while I was demonstrating. That's what happened right there. When you leave a sonnerie in operation, it will use the energy from the barrel that's stored up, and it will chime automatically on the hours and the quarters. So keep in mind, you don't have to set the sonnerie the way you set a minute repeater to tell you the time. It will do that automatically at regular intervals. Now, the entirety of the movement has been engraved. You could see grape leaves, you can see grapes across the bridges adjacent to the strikers as well as the tourbillon. So that's what you're actually looking at. What appears to be lizard scales, those are actually little grapes. We have the name of the company, Gerald Genta, as well as the number 1 engraved on a black polished surface. Here you can see those grape leaves better, and you can see the clutches of grape leaves flanking the Geneva hallmark right there. Let's talk a little bit about the technology here in the specs. 0 meters of water resistance. Don't even think about it. Caliber 31,000 is equivalent to today's Bulgari BVL 703, which has been launching in new watches as recently as 2022. So this movement's still doing yeoman service in the haute horlogerie Bulgaris that came out of the old Gerald Genta factory. The difference between that and this one is that this one is more heavily finished than the Bulgari of today. So automatic winding, 48-hour power reserve, 28 for the petite sonnerie, 24 for the Grande Sonnerie. It has a tourbillon. It has a 6 beat per second or 3 hertz beat rate. All of this pivots on 57 jewels, over 800 parts, and it is an absolute fantasy come to life. The best of the best. This watch is the James Bond DB5 of wristwatches. It is a living legend and the only one of its kind, and universally known and revered. If you want to own the ultimate watch for less than the price of some steel Nautilus pieces, reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. You didn't think I was going to leave you hanging, did you? Okay. Full strike right here.